What if Stalin returned today? Well, I feel like there'd be a lot of people that really don't like him. Like a lot. I mean, there's the Great Purge, there's the things he did in Ukraine. I mean, even fellow communists really didn't like Stalin very much. It really just depends on what part of the world Stalin's being reborn into. I mean, here in 2024, he's gonna have probably a better chance if he's somewhere in Western Europe or like the USA or Canada than if he were to pop up somewhere in like Eastern Europe or, you know, any place that's just been really ravaged by communism. Not sure Central Asia would like him too much. He would hit the freaking lottery though if he popped up in North Korea. Pretty sure they'd welcome him back with open arms. But let's see what direction this video
country. However, due to the Russian people remembering their past communist days and the Russian government not wanting a threat to their power, he would be exiled from Russia. And
that's a very good point. I don't know what I've read different polls. I've read that some Russians, a lot of Russians, they miss the Soviet days. I feel like some Russian people, especially the older ones that, you know, are definitely down in the dumps right now, would embrace Stalin because they want to go back to the USSR. But do you really think Putin would just allow that to happen? This man would probably put him on a flight and say he's going on an island getaway vacation and then just blow up the plane. Of course, Russian power currently is not going to want Stalin to come back. So boom, they kick him out, they exile him. Remember, he's from Georgia. I know they started him off in Russia. He's famous for Russia, but he was born in Georgia. That was the interesting part of this video.
Would decide to flee to the communist state of Cuba. The people of Cuba would accept him, and he would soon take over the country.
Yeah, I said North Korea in the very beginning. I mean, I don't know, but yeah. Probably. Cuba really liked how much support the USSR gave to them throughout their time.
The following years, he would strengthen Cuba economically and militarily. He would cause many countries in Central and South America to turn to communism.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, yes. Remember, a lot of these countries wanted to kind of turn to communism. The US just said no.
He would create a new faction called the Havana Pact. Immediately, Venezuela and Bolivia would join him,
Venezuela,
along
absolutely.
with China and North Korea. After several civil wars, Mexico, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Peru, and Argentina would join him as well. He would begin a war to spread communism to all of Central and South America.
This is like an absolutely insane scenario. Like, obviously not gonna happen. I mean, it's a guy coming back from the dead. Obviously it's not gonna happen. But kind of fun though. I do think this is kind of fun.
But the US
average Hoi 4 mod, honestly.
Join the war, marking the beginning of World War III. Subscribe.
I think somebody in like the federal government, some task force, the CIA, whatever, if they got word that Stalin was back, they would probably take him out before he even knew he was back himself. They would use a literal time machine to stop this guy. Bro learned geopolitics from Rise of Nations. It's a fun scenario though. I mean, I didn't consider him going to Cuba. Like I said, I think another scenario, him going to North Korea, would be interesting. North Korea is struggling so much. I think Kim Jong-un might just welcome him back. I don't think Kim Jong-un would give up power, but he would welcome him back. Nice job, Mappermanic. Part 2.
Return today. Part 2.
So let's see.
North Korea, with China's support, would take over South Korea. China wouldn't outright join the war.
I guess if the USA is like focused on like fighting whatever's going on in South America right now,
and equipment to stop,
and Latin America,
would be too busy to help the US.
Mexico as well. We have to talk about what's happening?
Communist uprisings and protests happened all across Europe.
You're showing the entire map of NATO. Like I said, I mean, word that I've heard, a lot of Eastern Europe does not like this, does not want to go back to this. There's some, but I heard the majority are not fans of, you know, what was going on behind the Iron Curtain during the Cold War.
Stalin would be able to take over all of Central America, but would still struggle in the south as U.S. soldiers arrived to help. The U.S.
Interesting that Brazil's not turning communist. That, yes, I wonder why that is.
Central America, but the Red Army would use guerrilla warfare to slow down.
I can see Mexico.
Push. After some time, the Red Army would push out the U.S. forces and take over all of South
America. That's do they have China's help? Whose help are they getting from this?
The U.S. would resort to using its nuclear weapons to destroy.
Oh my gosh! Okay, this is getting absolutely insane.
Use nuclear warheads in retaliation.
Part of this, I feel like sometimes when it comes to these scenarios, like the more ridiculous and absolutely like insane you go, the more like interaction, the more comments, the more people are going to talk about it. So you kind of want to amp it up, make it more chaotic.
Retaliation. After NATO finally extinguished the communist uprisings in Europe, they would invade South America. The U.S. would also push into Central America. Meanwhile, Japan, with NATO's help, would take over North Korea. The Red Army would begin losing in South America, and eventually, the U.S. and NATO would conquer them, with only Cuba remaining. The U.S. would invade Cuba and crush the last communists in America. However, Stalin is nowhere to be found.
I was going to say,
he fled to somewhere else. America and NATO would be significantly weakened after the war, and the possibility of Stalin returning again would always
that's hilarious. That's kind of funny. Like a Napoleon coming back from exile. I mean, dang, he did it. Why can't can't Stalin do it? Remember, the CIA tried to take out Fidel Castro, leader of Cuba, for a very long time. They never ended up doing it, even though they tried like 1,000 times, supposedly. A little bit less than that, but almost there. So who's to say they'd be able to find Stalin and take him out? They probably make the same mistakes. This one was actually entertaining, not gonna lie. I mean, it was just so crazy. Who gave Stalin the invincibility potion? Yeah, nice job here. What if Italy gets every country it wants?
Unfortunately, Italy's north is covered by the Alps,
yes,
meaning that invading France and
literally
Switzerland would be nearly impossible.
You can invade part of Switzerland if they really wanted. And in fact, that's the Italian-speaking part anyways. You wouldn't be able to take very much of their territory, but just, you know, a little bite, tiny bite. But yes, many people forget that there is a physical wall that separates Italy from the rest of continental Europe, which definitely benefited the Romans back during the ancient times. They basically lived on kind of an island inside of the massive inland sea that's the Mediterranean. You get to just sail around to anywhere, go meet people, but you know, you're for the most part safe back home, kind of. Cue Hannibal, but whatever.
And would be nearly impossible.
Okay.
However, if it manages to capture the non-mountainous region of Austria, it could invade Slovakia and Czechia and even try to go for Germany.
Oh, this is
Moreover,
really weird.
Its main invasion would start from Slovenia to try and capture all these weaker militaries.
That
However, since Greece is somewhat strong, it could go towards Bulgaria to gain access to the Black Sea.
Yeah, I mean, Italy's had trouble with Greece in the past. Just look at World War II.
Lastly,
that would probably, oh my gosh, what is this? Oh my goodness.
To defeat Tunisia and Algeria, it could start a campaign against many weaker militaries in Africa.
That makes more sense. That's the direction I would send them down first, but still. I mean, I feel like the only part that he lost me at is like going to Austria, Czechoslovakia, and Germany. Why? Don't do that. Naturally, Italy wants to move towards, I think, the Balkans and then south into Africa. Like, those are the foreseeable, it's more foreseeable that way. Not saying they'd be able to do it, but that just makes more sense. Oh man, I can't wait for these comments. Italy, if it listened to Germany's World War I advice. I made a reference to World War II, but not WW1. Remember, World War I, they weren't on Germany's side. They were supposed to be, kind of, but Italy had PTSD from Greece. Yep, that's World War II. Imagine how happy all Europe and Africa would be if this was true. Thanks for that, Benito Mussolini. As always, nice job, Matt Blad. The alcoholics of the world.
The most wine in the
Is
world.
that France or Italy? France.
France.
Yes.
The country that consumes the most beer in the world.
That's Czechia, I believe. Czechia has Germany beat, believe it or not, unless my statistics are wrong.
World is
depends on the year.
The Czech Republic.
Yes.
And the country.
Sorry, I'm supposed to say the Czech Republic, not Czechia. Maybe.
Consumes the most alcohol in general.
In general, like spirit-wise, is it Finland or is it Russia? In general, dang, I should know this. Why didn't they do whiskey? But like
Romania.
Really?
Well, it seems like Europe has a problem with alcoholism.
Huh. Well, yeah, definitely Europe does. But Americans at 21 discovering alcohol, party, and Europeans at 21 quitting alcohol, party too. Yeah, I wanted like vodka. I wanted more of the spirits. Is Romania really the drunkest country? Oh yeah, apparently it is. Wow, I feel like I've not seen that before. Globe Edit David Nice. A country with no land at all.
No territory on Earth. There's a country recognized by over 100 nations, but it owns no land at all.
Wait a second, I know this. Which one is that? I know. Well, you know what? The United Nations recognize a couple of places without any land, right? I don't know. They have different like definitions. They have different categories for ethnic groups, cultures. There's a long list, but they don't technically have their own country. Let me see.
How's that even possible? Every country you know has borders, cities, something to mark on a
map.
Yeah,
it's a different
this one,
classification.
Not a single inch of territory, no land, no borders, no capital. And yet, it's recognized and functions like any other.
Dang, I think we were just talking about this a couple months ago. Oh man, it sucks getting old. Your memory just, it's gone.
Other nation. It's not some tiny island or a small piece of land away somewhere. It has nothing you can point to on a map. How is that?
It's a group of people, I think. Or is it a religious thing?
That possible? And why would over 100 countries recognize something so unusual? It even has its own passports, coins, stamps, and even a seat at the United Nations.
Oh wow. Is this in Eastern Europe? There's definitely a political move here. Dang, I just have to watch the video. I'm not gonna be able to predict it. I'm gonna kick myself when I see the answer.
This country is over 900 years old, and it's the only entity that can claim to be a country with no land. This country actually focuses on humanitarian efforts and helping people around the globe, and it operates from just 2 buildings in Rome, Italy. And if you are wondering which country is it, it's the Sovereign Military Order of Malta. Subscribe for more.
Oh, wow, that's weird. I actually did not know that, and I would have never guessed that. So never mind, I don't know what the heck I'm talking about. This place founded 1,000 years ago in Jerusalem. I mean, it's recognized by over 100 countries. That's really, remember that when it comes to like how to make a country, there's so many like searches on YouTube or Google, like how do you form your own country? It's not that difficult. Technically, you just need other countries to recognize you as a country, and bam, there you go. It's that simple, but it's also that difficult. It's still hard. You need need like massive places to be like, yeah, you are a legitimate country. I'm gonna need to do a deep dive into this place. I think I know part of its history for sure. Knights of Malta, yeah. It is kind of a religious thing. Obviously, actually. Random knowledge video? No. How about 56 seconds of patience video? I went to Yappenville and everyone said you're the president. No, I like the way this video was presented because there might have been, it's like, oh, you want to know the answer. They're giving you clues to figure out the answer. Nice job here, Glor. Remember the UN has 193 member states. There's 2 UN General Assembly observer states, so that's the Holy See and the state of Palestine. 2 eligible non-member states, the Cook Islands and how do you pronounce that again? 17 non-self-governing territories. I think that's what I was trying to think of. So it's like overseas territories that like the US, France, and the UK own, basically. Finally, Antarctica, which nobody technically owns, but there's lots of claims to that. Is Russia losing yet?
Russia?
Or
so
now?
3 weeks ago, Ukraine launched an invasion of Russia's Kursk Oblast. Now keep in mind this is the second time, as Ukraine also launched an invasion here a year ago, but it was quickly stopped by Russian forces.
I do remember
However,
that.
this time Ukraine has already pushed a bit farther and captured a few
like they've
villages.
Stayed there so far.
What Ukraine's game plan is, but they may be trying to capture the entire Kursk Oblast to start negotiations for their old territories.
It's definitely back to, it does feel like we're back into World War I days with this conflict. Not a whole lot of frontline movement anymore. That first like month or two was crazy though.
The entire Kursk Oblast.
I don't think they're going to take the whole Oblast
for their old territories. Or maybe Ukraine has overcooked and given Russia a reason to use nuclear weapons.
We don't want to think about that. I don't know if I would say Russia's losing now, but okay, Happy Earth. It's not it's not great. I mean, de facto, like, officially no one's going to recognize it, but it seems like Russia's going to take a big chunk out of Ukraine. They're just going to keep that like they've kept Crimea. Maybe there'll be a peace deal at some point. But yeah, Russia's definitely taking this part. Yeah, that's probably good. I mean, the world might not recognize it, but that's just going to be what happens. I don't think they're going to be able to push back. It's just been too long now. They just don't have the population. Ukraine captured a few villages. Russia captured almost the entire eastern part of Ukraine. Yeah, they're going to have to get that stuff back in order for us to be like, is Russia losing now? Ukraine takes a few villages. Geography channels, Ukraine is finna win the war. I guess we'll have to see how it continues to develop. How did Switzerland form? Now, Switzerland, the one thing I do know about Switzerland, besides that they're neutral to the rest of the world, but they used to love fighting themselves. Those cantons would always be battling. Also, they loved their mercenaries. They had very powerful mercenaries that would get hired and they'd go fight for other countries.
The Holy Roman Empire, the foundation of modern Switzerland, began when 3 cantons, Uri, Schwyz, and Unterwalden,
they have 9 though,
the
right?
old Swiss Confederation in 1291. Yes. They united for military and economy reasons. This included city-states like Lucerne, Zurich, and Bern, and additional cantons like Glarus and Zug. This growth led to conflicts with Habsburg Austria and resulted in Swiss victories at battles like Sempach or Nafels and in the
Holy Roman Empire
fighting in 1499, which secured de facto independence
they did fight,
from the Holy Roman
believe it or
Empire.
not.
Full independence was formalized with the Treaty of Westphalia in 1648. In the late 18th century, Napoleon reformed Switzerland, establishing a centralized state. But the Congress of Vienna in 1815 restored the original confederation and confirmed Swiss
neutrality. And then that's when they went
this
super
period saw the admission.
They weren't neutral until after the whole Napoleon thing. They haven't been neutral forever. It's only been the last like 200 years, believe it or not. I know that's like going contrary to all the memes, but it's true.
Of Valais, Neuchâtel, and Geneva into the Confederation.
Yeah, they got a little bit more of the French side. I mean, they speak all sorts of languages here. Switzerland, yay, I'm neutral. Napoleon, not anymore. Well, they tried, I guess. They definitely have a really fascinating history out of all like the medium-sized countries in Europe. I thought they just teleported into existence. You and me both. As always, Knowledgia with the greatest shorts. Very educational. As always, big thanks to my patrons. Month 2. In Drew's basement. Drew's Argentinian Grandpa. DOOCHBAGGINS. I can't sleep. KansasWasMentioned. Amateur Archaeology. aPhatNarwhal. Carmel Fredrik Tibblin. KingBearHaze. KirinoIsBestGirl. Mgmluthegoat. Tyrol. Tambre. Mexican 760. If you like your name here, check that link to Patreon down below.